Hello and welcome back to Through the Trapdoor. I'm Emily.
And I'm Katie.
And this is our podcast where we read you Harry Potter fanfiction.
That's what we do.
Then we're just going to continue reading Eyes as Green as a Fresh Pickled Toad. We're on to chapter 11.
We're on chapter 11.
Finally.
Like 100 episodes later. So any fun garbage that you want to tell people, since we had batch recorded, 5 episodes before, so we have some stuff to catch everybody up on.
I feel like a lot of things happened, immediately after we recorded everything.
They did.
Like, the J.K. Rowling thing,
Which, no.
Yeah, no, obviously we
don't agree with anything that she's saying at all. She's a garbage human.
We still love Harry Potter, just not J.K. Rowling.
No. This series belongs to the fandom, and the fandom only.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
That's where we stand. We've retweeted a few things about that, so.
Yes. And the Black Lives Matter movement.
Which we also stand, so.
Yes, we also support Black Lives Matter. Just in case anybody was wondering where we stood on those subjects, we support both. We're very sorry that we pre-recorded 9 episodes.
And could not discuss the fact that, the world is falling apart.
Yes.
So, wear a mask.
Wear a mask.
J.K. Rowling is garbage.
Support Black people.
Yeah. So, as you all know, Emily's parents own a winery called Staggering Unicorn Winery that typically we drink while we're recording, but we've been recording during the day, and we're not super day drinkers. Also, she is a tiny human that she's taking care of. We can't get pissed drunk while recording.
Very true.
So, she was down there a couple weeks ago over Father's Day weekend.
Yes, over Father's Day weekend.
And obviously I asked her to bring me home wine.
Obviously.
So she texts me, she goes, "Oh, Dad's gonna bottle of lavender vanilla for us." And so I read it as us. She actually wrote you. He bottled me a special bottle. Oh, what a doll. Love him. Loved the wine.
Yes. In case anybody who lives in a state that they can ship to, or they live in Pennsylvania, they will be releasing the lavender vanilla to the public in a couple months. Right now it's still in the testing phase, so sorry, but only Katie got it.
Well, they love me. I love them. Why am I not going to test a new flavor?
True. They also are soon releasing banana, which is going to be amazing. Mixed with their strawberry, it tastes like a strawberry banana smoothie.
I have not been privy to this yet, and I'm a little upset that I didn't get a special banana, but lavender vanilla is so good.
I knew you would love the lavender vanilla, so. What were you saying about Tori?
Oh, so, if you listened to our Hot Mess Minnesota from 3 days ago, you would have heard me go, "Oh, I saw Tori this weekend. Haha, you must wait until Saturday to find out what we talked about." She said we should get merch. And I'm like, I feel like you and 2 people would buy it. She's like, "Well, then just find a website where you could upload a design and they just sell it for you." And I'm like,
You mean like TeePublic?
Like TeePublic, yeah. Wait, I'm not very artsy. So I can't draw anything. So somebody else would have to design it for us.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like people just want a shirt with our square of a thing on it.
If anybody wants merch or has merch ideas, we will look into potentially
designing something and putting it on TeePublic.
Just let us know what ideas you have.
Yeah. So,
because I would wear our own merch.
Oh, I would too.
Even if the very least just you and I bought it.
Oh, yeah. Also, I love us. We record this. I don't listen to us.
Me either. I'm sorry.
So, if we say funny things, that would be funny to put on a shirt if we, designed it pretty.
Yeah, if we've said any great quotes that you're like, "Oh, yeah," and you want it on a shirt, please let us know, because I honestly don't go back and listen to us, except for when I'm editing, and then after I've edited it, I don't want to listen to us again.
Yeah, I, used to listen to us. I'm like, wow, we're funny. And then, I follow too many podcasts.
Also, I have that problem.
I can't listen to myself.
Far behind.
I cannot listen to myself and all my other podcasts. Well, you don't drive to and from work anymore. And that's
I know.
You're not in the car as much anymore.
True, which is where I used to listen to all my podcasts.
Right, you used to have 3 hours a day in the car.
Yep.
You've got exciting news.
Oh, yes, my sister got engaged.
So that's fun.
Yeah. It actually happened while we were out there in Pennsylvania, so that was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
On to chapter 11.
Woo!
Houses divided. The sun announced its exit from the land of the living in a blur of orange, pink, and purple, with a giant blood-red streak of farewell painted across the sky. Lily sighed and leaned back against James, staring as the clouds became tinged with pastel pink and took on the appearance of giant cotton candy blobs. The moon began to glow faintly in the eastern part of the sky, and Lily drank in the beautiful scenery hungrily with her eyes, wrapping James's arms around her and sighing softly, feeling very mushy and romantic and silly all at the same time. "Isn't it beautiful?" she whispered. "Mm-hmm," James agreed, sounding distracted. Lily twisted her head around to find that he was not gazing at the sunset at all, but rather at her. "James, you're not even looking at it." "I'm looking at the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," he replied, and leaned in to kiss her. Lily closed her eyes and let him, but was disappointed to find that his mouth tasted rather like cotton. It was very, very dry and not so warm and cottony. Lily pulled back her head and opened her eyes, and glared angrily at her favorite green pillow, which was laying innocently on her bed. Oh, so she'd been dreaming again. How annoying. If Lily didn't stop having dreams about James, she wouldn't be able to put him out of her mind, and she would get distracted at work all the time. And she would just sit for hours on end wishing that she could see him, and her summer would be completely unbearable. Although as far as Lily was concerned, it really wouldn't be much of a stretch to get to that point, seeing as how the summer was pretty much miserable anyway. Lily rolled over in bed and let the memories of the last few weeks at Hogwarts drift through her mind in a haze. Ravenclaw had gone on to beat the Gryffindors at the Quidditch Cup. Lily and James and Sirius and Melody and several others had been all tacked up on the new Auror training list, which was to be decided with finality at the beginning of 7th year. Lily had scored top on nearly all of her exams, except 2. James had beaten her in Transfiguration, and Severus Snape had beaten her in Potions. Lily frowned. She was still angry about that one. Her purifying potion had been absolutely perfect. Just because she didn't spend her lunch hours lurking around the potions dungeon laying praise all over Professor Thorne didn't mean she didn't deserve top marks. Honestly, if you asked Lily, which no one ever did, mind you, Professor Thorne had a thing or two to learn about potion making himself. Quite suddenly, Lily's alarm clock went off and she jumped and glared at the evil little piece of machinery as she turned it off. Never mind that she had already been awake, it was still an annoying thing to hear, and she had no desire to get out of her nice, warm bed and shiver through an early morning shower before breakfast. If you're shivering through your early morning shower, your shower's not warm enough.
Like, seriously.
Work. What a strange concept. What a strange thing to be burdened with in the Muggle world. Her life at home was so radically different from life at Hogwarts that she rather felt like a fish out of water when she first stepped into her house this summer. But to be working in a Muggle coffee shop alongside other Muggles serving Muggles all day long, it was almost surreal. Every day she felt herself detaching a little more from Hogwarts and magic and the life she'd grown so accustomed to after all those years. Slowly, she felt herself growing distant from the magic of the Potter Cottage, the charms of Hogsmeade, the mysteries of Diagon Alley. Slowly, the dread and fear regarding you-know-who and his Death Eaters was seeping away back into the world of magic. Here, there was just earth and sky and spirit and no magic at all except the magic of life, and Lily, every day, was slowly discovering that it was not so bad to be a Muggle after all.
So that's actually an interesting concept, now that I'm thinking about that. None of the wizard kids have summer jobs. There are, like, magical coffee shops, there are magical stores, and, like, none of the children have summer jobs.
Maybe it's just we didn't ever see...
Like, you'd think the Weasley twins would have, like, not the Weasley twins, but the Weasley children would have summer jobs, seeing as their family is not well off, or jobs over holidays because their family is not well off, and they're always complaining about not having, like, the spending money.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think that they would all have wizard summer jobs so they could earn money for Hogsmeade weekends and stuff.
Who knows? But yeah, it is very interesting that, like, we don't ever see that aspect of it.
Or, like, the Dursleys would for sure make Harry get a job during the summer.
Yes.
Granted, he's only ever there for, like, a couple weeks at a time, but, like...
I'm wondering if it could be the whole, like, Harry's a brick wall.
Right, and yeah, so
and
we don't
like,
ever see that aspect of it. But,
yeah.
like, there are those times where, like, in the 5th book, I believe, right? Yeah. Harry spends his summers laying underneath the window in the front garden so he can listen to the news when he's not spending his whole day in the garden pruning it and weeding it for Petunia.
Well, I think that the Dursleys maybe wanted to use him more as, like
manual labor,
yeah. Instead of getting a job. But then, like, when Harry was, like, younger, he didn't really know a whole lot about, like, what the older Weasley siblings were doing.
That's true.
And then I think by the time Ron was old enough to get a job himself, his parents are probably like, it's not exactly safe, so...
Yeah, that's not a thing you're gonna do.
Because think about it, their whole, 5th year summer they spent at...
The Order House, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, the 5th year summer is probably the year that they would have started to get summer jobs and...
Right, because actually I don't know anything about the labor laws in Europe.
Me either. I'm just assuming that...
They're similar to ours.
They're similar where you can get your first job at, like, 15 or so.
Right.
Which means that Ron wouldn't have been looking for his first job until that summer where they spent it...
In hiding, essentially.
In hiding, yeah. And then, like...
And we don't ever really hear about Hermione's summers except for the times that she's with the Weasleys. So she very well could have been working in her parents' dentistry practice.
Yeah, I'm sure that when they were home, they were working in the dentistry, but I feel like her parents were the kind of people where they would take as much of their summer off as they could so that they could spend it with Hermione.
Because they always were going on holidays to France and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that makes sense because, you know, they were fighting a war during those books.
Yeah.
I want to know more about Charlie and Bill, please, before there was a war.
Yeah, so I feel like Charlie and Bill probably had summer jobs, and Percy, like, maybe, because, I mean, they all said that he was just spending all of his time in his room, but what if he really had a job, and Harry was just like, I never see him, his door's always closed, he's probably just in his room.
Right, and he was or he could have had a job that he was doing things like sending owls and filling out paperwork, but he was doing it from home because, you know.
Yeah. Like a
pre-internship.
Internship, yeah.
Alright.
And besides, if she thought of the magic, then she thought of James. And if she thought of James for more than a second, she became terribly homesick for Hogwarts, or Potter Cottage, or perhaps either or both. There was some strange connection between the two, although Lily did not know exactly what. But whatever quality it was that connected them, it made Lily feel at home.
I don't know, magic and James.
Lily's alarm clock beeped at her again, and she fixed a glare on it that would have turned most other alarm clocks to stone. Hers, however, kept beeping in a high-pitched monotone, and she was forced to pick it up and throw it across the room in frustration. That will not stop the beating. You have to press the button. Press the button.
Unless you broke it, which you might have.
Unfortunately, this action had no impact whatsoever on the clock's beeping. It smacked into the wall, dropped to the floor where it lay, beeping as incessantly as ever, and Lily was forced to get up out of bed and stomp across the room to turn it off. She sighed and dropped the alarm clock carelessly back on the floor before stumbling across her very messy room to the hallway where Petunia had stuck her head out of the door. What was all the noise? She mumbled. Just my alarm clock, Lily replied. What'd it do? Petunia asked sleepily. Oh, nothing. It was just working again, that's all. Go back to bed. Well, you might want to consider getting a quieter one. It keeps waking me up, and I'm supposed to be having company tonight. I need my rest.
Okay, Petunia.
Petunia snapped before retreating into her room. Lily rolled her eyes and stepped back into the bathroom, where she glanced at the clock on the wall. Who has a clock on the wall in the bathroom?
I was just going to say that who has a clock in their bathroom?
I can barely remember to buy enough clocks for the rooms that I need clocks in.
I don't have clocks in the rooms I need clocks in. That's what I have a watch for, or a phone.
and realized that it was 15 minutes ahead of the one in her room. "Oh, bollocks," Lily exclaimed, and set about taking her shower and brushing her teeth and all the other sort of cleanliness-related activities before rushing into her room, fishing around for her uniform, throwing her wet hair into a messy bun, and sprinting out the front door. She ran 3 blocks to the bus station, where she barely managed to catch her bus, and arrived at work nearly on time. "Almost late again, Evans," her boss, Ian, said as she hurriedly punched in. "If you're almost late, you're not late, so it doesn't matter.
Correct.
As long as you are not late, you're fine." "Almost, but not quite," Lily replied, smiling cheekily. "I like to be punctual. No sense in arriving too early, you know." "Is that like, why do today what you can put off until tomorrow?" asked another voice, and Lily turned to see Ethan, another employee, coming through the kitchen doors with a tray of tall glasses. "Something like that, yes," Lily agreed, taking several small glasses off the tray as he set them down, placing them on their proper shelf. Ian checked his watch. 15 minutes till opening. Who wants to start brewing coffee?" Ethan and Lily looked at each other. "He does," Lily said, quickly pointing. "I'll get things set up out here." "So what's with you and this James fellow you keep talking about?" Ethan asked as he busied himself with making some decaf. "Oh, it's nothing," Lily replied. He's just hopelessly obsessed with me, that's all." She grinned for a moment, imagining the look James would have on his face if he had heard what she said. "Well, I can see why," Ethan replied, glancing at her over his shoulder. Lily's cheeks went a bit pink. Ethan normally flirted with her, but this morning he was apparently feeling a bit more forward than usual. "Can you?" she asked, feeling amused and flattered. Ian left Lily and Ethan to handle the rest of opening up and went into the back to face the wrath of Fran, the cook, and check up on the muffins she was supposed to have ready. Lily and Ethan ran around the shop as the clock ticked closer to 6 o'clock and placed the sugar and the butter packets on various tables.
Who leaves butter packets on the table?
The clock clicked to 6 and nothing happened. Ethan and Lily continued to prep the shop, brewing more coffee, wiping off counters, preparing the dining area, bringing more pastries and fresh muffins and donuts out from the kitchen. At 6:15, their first customer arrived, accompanied by the tinkling of the bell that hung over the door. Lily punched his order into the computer and then stood at the counter watching Ethan write the daily specials on the wipe-off board and feeling extremely sleepy. She supposed that she could have been restocking the mini fridge with whipped cream and milk and chocolate syrup and the like, but she didn't really feel like moving, and besides, it was very interesting to watch Ethan write on the wipe-off board. He was a rather talented artist and did the most fantastic little drawings of people drinking cups of coffee, which really fascinated Lily, as she was about as artistic as a rhinoceros was graceful.
Oh, me.
Unfortunately for Lily, she did not have an opportunity to stand around and watch Ethan draw on the wipe-off board because at that moment, several more customers had come in. After all the customer orders were taken care of, she managed to look at the wipe-off board, and was rather surprised to find a drawing of herself on it. She was depicted as fighting with the coffee machine, and her hair was looking rather frizzy. Self-consciously, she patted her hair before turning to Ethan and poking him in the stomach. "My hair does not look like that," she informed him, frowning. "It does sometimes. When we really get busy, it does not. My hair is perfect." Ethan laughed. "Of course it is, Lily." Lily sighed and began sorting silverware. Ethan walked over to help Lily sort through her silverware. "Dear old Horseface, so how's she doing? Eating lots of hay?" Lily laughed. "Not quite. She's having a party tonight, though," she remembered, pulling a face. "Oh, lovely," Ethan replied sarcastically. "Well, obviously neither of us are working tonight. What say I save you from your sister and we can catch a movie?" "Really?" Lily asked hopefully. "Absolutely. I haven't got any plans, have you?" "I do now," Lily replied. Ethan smiled. "So how about we get a bite to eat first?" "Sounds fine to me. Meet you at the pub round the corner about 7? "Sure. It's a date then? Sounds like it." Ethan smiled again, and if Lily weren't completely aware that she was entirely hung up on James, she probably would have felt a bit weak in the knees because she was entirely hung up on James after all, wasn't she? Of course she was.
Except Ethan literally just asked you out on a date and you agreed to go.
Yes.
Like, that's an actual date.
Yeah,
You're going to dinner and a movie.
actual date.
That is a date.
Lily.
Oh, come on, girl.
Melody was going to have an aneurysm if her little sisters didn't stop playing with their new exploding snap game, and her youngest brother didn't stop banging pots together, and her other sisters didn't stop running around the house playing tag, and her younger brother didn't stop stealing things out of the room she had to share with two of her sisters, the sisters who were playing exploding snap, and then hitting the aforementioned sisters with those things instead of packing for camp like they were all supposed to do. She was definitely going to have an aneurysm.
That's too many siblings.
That's, what, 6 siblings?
I think so. Although it's not specified how many sisters are in the other sisters. Sounds like she has 2 brothers and at least 4 sisters.
It's too many. Her mother had gone out and her stepfather was at work, and she was supposed to be helping some of her younger siblings pack for going away to camp, but none of them could stay in one place long enough to concentrate on packing. Life would be much easier if her sister were here to help, but she was at work, and Melody was very much out of luck, so she has like 7 siblings.
One of whom actually has a job.
Yeah. That's it, Melody screamed as her tag-playing sisters ran into the room. Stop it! Her sisters froze. Just sit down right where you are, Melody ordered, and her sisters sank to the floor looking terrified. Stay there until I get back. She stomped out of her room and slammed the door, rounding up all of her siblings in a similar manner, bringing them to her room, where she sat all of them down and glared. Mom is not here. Steve is not here. I'm in charge. You are all old enough to know how to behave yourselves, and this is ridiculous. Marie, Hannah, John, and Dexter all have to go to camp. I have to help them pack. The rest of you are going to go downstairs and put on a movie, and for God's sakes be quiet, or else I will take out my wand and hex all of you until your arms are coming out the top of your heads. Have I made myself clear, or do I need to repeat any of that? Melody asked so savagely that all of her siblings simply looked at her in terror and shook their heads, and the 2 youngest of them quickly got up and ran out of the room to go find a movie.
Yep, 7.
Okay, let's go pack, she said to her remaining siblings. They all got up and followed her silently to the next room. 3 days, she reminded herself. 3 days, and then it's off to America, and I won't have to deal with any of this for the rest of the summer. All right, Dumbledore, is my great-great-grandson finally going to make something of himself, or what? Your great-great-grandson? Please, Phineas, save it. If you're going to make it a Gryffindor, that's bad enough, but we don't want to go there. I mean, honestly, who ever heard of a troublemaker being a head boy? Like, the Ravenclaws are so much better this year, Phineas demanded, puffing up his chest. We have a few. That's enough from you two. Slytherins are the only one in school with any intelligence in this place. Well, you certainly can't rule out Hufflepuff, piped up another voice. We've got some good ones, too. All right, Dumbledore said, glaring at his portraits. That is quite enough. As former headmasters, I would expect all of you to be a little more objective. Phineas snorted. That hasn't happened in previous years, so why should we change things now? Dumbledore sighed. Point taken. Now, the head girl has already been sorted out. He was broken off by a great clamor of voices. Silence, Dumbledore commanded, and their voices quieted abruptly. As I was saying, Lily Evans will be the head girl. It's the head boy that troubles me. As long as it's not Sirius Black, one of the headmistresses muttered, and Phineas Nigellus Black glared at her. Remus Lupin is good, one of the portraits suggested, but another one shot him a dirty look. You would suggest a Gryffindor.
No, I think Remus Lupin's a good choice, but...
Yes.
Aside from the whole werewolf debacle, because that might be a little bit difficult for him to be, like, head boy if there was a full moon.
Yes.
Other than that, he'd be a great choice.
Great choice. Dumbledore sighed again, very audibly, and the portraits attempted to contain themselves. I would suggest a Gryffindor as well. I was thinking James Potter, although he's a bit of a troublemaker himself. The portraits erupted in conversation. Dumbledore sat and watched for a few minutes, catching snippets of various arguments before he nodded and made a decision. It's lunchtime, he announced. I'm going to have a sandwich.
Very Dumbledore.
The portrait stopped abruptly. Dumbledore looked around at them expectantly, as if waiting for one of them to speak. Well, he asked, what is it? The head boy, one of them finally erupted. Who's going to be head boy? Oh, yes, that. James Potter, I think. Now, if you excuse me, I'm really going to go have a sandwich. As he left, the portraits again erupted in a conversation, and he smiled to himself as he closed the door. Maybe it was a mistake to put Lily Evans and James Potter together in such a position, but they would have to give in and work together before the end. Hurt at all to have two of the most talented young wizards Dumbledore had ever met teach each other a few things. Sirius's cousin had come for a visit. Visits from Bellatrix were never pleasant by any means, but now that she'd met this Lestrange character, they were positively unbearable. Bellatrix had met him at Durmstrang, where they'd both gone to school, and after graduating this spring, she'd been able to speak of nothing else. Although she and Sirius were born within a month of each other, Bellatrix had gone to school an year early and had enjoyed lording this fact over Sirius's head without seeming to realize at all that Sirius did not care. So you've got a flying motorcycle, have you? Bellatrix asked him rather nastily over tea. Leave it up to you to find a flying muggle contraption rather than a proper wizard one. I have a broom, you know, Sirius said evenly, chomping rather violently on a crumpet. Do you? Well, you don't suppose your broom is any good, is it? At least not compared to Siegfried's. He has the latest model, some Nimbus thing and flying carpet that he bought in Persia last summer. Yes, 'cause carpets and brooms aren't muggle contraptions at all, Sirius thought sarcastically, rolling his eyes as Bellatrix droned on and on about her beloved and unbelievably boring sweetheart, Siegfried. After another few minutes of this rambling, Sirius was so out of his mind with boredom that he began coming up with imaginative ways to kill himself. Now, if I just grabbed that teapot and smashed it over my head, no, that wouldn't work. It might knock me out for a while, though, which would be good enough, he thought, his eyes straying all around the courtyard. Having a conversation with Bellatrix was often like having your bones ground up into dust by large cement blocks, and Sirius was just beginning to feel that grinding sensation when his mother appeared in the courtyard and saved him from having to come up with a decent response to Bellatrix's not-so-veiled insult. Mom, how spanking good to see you, Sirius cried out, leaping up from the table. Bellatrix looked rather annoyed at Sirius's lack of manners, but he really didn't care anymore. Hello, Sirius, Mrs. Black said, glancing at Sirius suspiciously out of the corners of her eyes. She had reason to do so, as Sirius rarely looked excited to see her, except when he wanted something. Good afternoon, Bellatrix, she directed courteously at Sirius's cousin. How is tea? Tea is lovely, Bellatrix replied. The company, she began delicately, is rather distracted, Mum. Sirius interrupted, and Bellatrix glared at him. That's hardly surprising, Mrs. Black said dryly. What's distracting you, Sirius? It's just my motorcycle, Sirius invented suddenly. He realized the second he blurted it out that this may have not been the right thing to say. His mother was not very fond of his motorcycle. It's been making funny noises, and I've been meaning to have it looked at. I might not be able to ride it again without proper repairs. Oh, what a tragedy, Mrs. Black replied sarcastically. Well, you'll have time to look at it later. For now, you should remember your manners and entertain your cousin. Damn it, Sirius thought with feeling. Of course, Mom, he agreed hastily. I was only saying that's what's been distracting me. I didn't mean to look at it right now. Mrs. Black looked at him as though she rather doubted this, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she said, I have good news. Your cousin Andromeda is going to be in town tomorrow until Friday for a convention, and she's going to be staying with us. At this, Sirius visibly perked, and Bellatrix visibly soured. Do you think I could take her to meet James, then? Sirius asked, and Mrs. Black sighed. Not if you intend to take your motorcycle to get there, and only if Bellatrix goes too. Mrs. Black replied, looking at Bellatrix, who raised an eyebrow and looked at Sirius. James who? She inquired, looking quite as though she expected Sirius to blurt out some surname which she did not recognize, so she could sneer at him some more and mock his associates with non-high society types. Too bad for Bellatrix that the next word out of Sirius's mouth was Potter, and that James was the son of the Minister of Magic. Bellatrix's eyes widened. You know the Minister of Magic's son? She asked, suddenly sounding very interested. She was far too wrapped up in all the society nonsense, having connections and whatnot, and gaining powerful allies. Having the Minister of Magic's son as her friend would gain her family a powerful ally indeed, and Sirius knew that this is what she was thinking as soon as she said, I would love to go, and smiled rather too widely at his mother. If only it were tomorrow already, and Sirius didn't have to sit through an entire evening and morning of Bellatrix's droning. Well, Sirius supposed, beginning to plot out various ways in which he could ditch Bellatrix once they reached Potter Cottage. You can't have everything. All right, any final thoughts?
No, not except for my comment again is, who the fuck puts butter packets on all of the tables in a coffee shop?
True. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us on our journey through the trapdoor.
You can leave us a review on Facebook or Apple Podcasts. It would literally mean the world to us.
Or you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at TheTrapdoor16.
Or if you have any longer thoughts, you can shoot us an email at throughthetrapdoor16@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week.
See you next week.